This is lesson 2.2, solving one-step equations. Your objectives are to solve equations using addition and subtraction, and to solve equations using multiplication or division. When you're solving an equation, the addition property of equality says that you can add the same thing to each side of an equation. The subtraction property of equality says that you can subtract the same thing from each side of an equation. Example 1. Solve m minus 32 equals 18. Remember, you want to get the variable by itself. Right now, 32 is subtracted from the variable. You want to do the opposite of subtracting, which is adding. So you'll add 32 to both sides of the equation. Always do this to both sides of the equation. Negative 32 plus 32 is 0. And m plus 0 is m. So the negative 32 and the positive 32 cancel each other out, leaving the variable by itself. M equals 50. Example 2. Solve 22 plus p equals negative 12. Well, since that's a 22 plus p, and the 22 is positive, do the opposite of a positive and get a minus. Subtract 22 from each side. On the left, 22 minus 22 is 0, and p plus 0 is just p. So the 22's cancel out, leaving the variable by itself. On the right, negative 12 minus 22 is negative 34. So always do the opposite operation to get the variable by itself. If it's being subtracted, add it. If it's being added, subtract it. And always do that to both sides of the equation. Solve each equation. Number 2. m minus 8 equals negative 12. Well, the opposite of subtracting 8 is to add 8 to each side. That cancels the 8 on the left, leaving m. And negative 12 plus 8 is negative 4. Number 3, p minus 5 equals 15. The 5 is being subtracted, so do the opposite and add it to each side. The 5's cancel on the left, and 15 plus 5 is 20. Number 5, k minus 0.5 equals 2.3. Well, do the opposite and add 0.5 to each side. K equals 2.8. Remember, when something's being subtracted, you add it to both sides. The same is true with fractions. W minus half equals 5/8. Well, add half to each side. On the right, you need a common denominator. For 2 and 8, the common denominator is 8. 2 times what is 8? 4. So half becomes 4/8. So you're really adding 4/8 to both sides. W on the left, and 5/8 plus 4/8 is 9/8. Number 8, negative 12 equals negative 24 plus k. The negative 24 is added to the k, but look at the sign in front of the 24. It's a negative. The opposite of a negative 24 would be to add 24 to both sides, because negative 24 plus 24 is 0, and that makes it cancel. Negative 12 plus 24 is 12 on the left, and you have k on the right. Always do the opposite. Number 9, j minus 0.2 equals 1.8. The opposite of subtracting 0.2 is adding 0.2. Cancels on the left, leaving j, and 1.8 plus 0.2 is 2. Number 11, m minus negative 12 equals 10. Well, first I'd like to change the minus a negative 12 to plus a positive 12. And now m plus 12, to get rid of the 12, do the opposite and subtract it from both sides. 12 cancels on the left, and 10 minus 12 is negative 2. Number 12, w minus 3 halves equals 1/4. Well, do the opposite of subtracting 3 halves and add 3 halves to each side. To get a common denominator on the right, for 2 and 4, the denominator should be 4. 2 times what is 4? 2 times 2 is 4. So 3 halves becomes 6/4. The 3 halves cancels on the left. Negative 3 halves plus 3 halves is 0, leaving w. And 1/4 plus 6/4 is 7/4. Number 14, w plus 2 equals negative 13. Solve for w. The opposite of adding 2 is subtracting 2, so subtract 2 from each side. W plus 2 minus 2 is w. Negative 13 minus 2 is negative 15. Always do the opposite operation to move one number to the other side of the equation. Number 15. Negative 17 equals b plus 4. What's over there with b? A plus 4. So do the opposite and subtract 4 from each side. Negative 17 minus 4 is negative 21. And plus 4 minus 4 cancels out, leaving b. Negative 3.2 equals L plus negative 0.2. Well, first we should change L plus negative 0.2 to just L minus 0.2. Well, if 0.2 is being subtracted, to move it to the other side, we should add it to both sides. Negative 3.2 plus 0.2 is negative 3. And negative 0.2 plus 0.2 cancels out, leaving L. Negative 3/8 plus x equals 5/8. Well, you have negative 3/8 plus x, so do the opposite of a negative 3/8 and add 3/8 to each side. Negative 3/8 plus 3/8 is 0, leaving an x. And 5/8 plus 3/8 is 8/8, which is 1. Number 20. Negative 12 equals k plus 24. K plus 24, the 24 needs moved, so subtract it from each side of the equation. Remember, when you do this, you subtract or add the number from each side of the equation. Negative 12 minus 24 is negative 36, and 24 minus 24 is 0, leaving k. K is negative 36. J plus 1.2 equals 2.8. Well, to get rid of the 1.2, since it's being added, you should subtract it from each side of the equation. J plus 1.2 minus 1.2 is j. 2.8 minus 1.2 is 1.6. m plus negative 8 equals 2. First change m plus negative 8 just to m minus 8. And then to move the 8, it's being subtracted, so do the opposite operation and add 8 to each side of the equation. Negative 8 plus 8 cancels out, leaving m. 2 plus 8 is 10. M equals 10. Number 24. W plus 3 halves equals 5/8. The 3 halves is being added, so to move it to the other side, subtract it from each side of the equation. The common denominator is 8, so the negative 3 halves should be times 4 over 4, giving you a negative 12/8. The 3 halves cancel on the left, leaving W, and 5/8 minus 12/8 is negative 7/8. Always remember, if a number is added to the variable, then subtract it from each side. If it's subtracted from the variable, then add it to each side. Always do the opposite operation. Solve equations using multiplication and division. When solving equations where a number is multiplied by the variable, or it's the variable divided by that number, you do the opposite operation. You can multiply both sides of an equation by the same number, and you can divide both sides of an equation by the same number. Example 1. Solve 3.5p equals 1.5. First change the mixed numbers into improper fractions. 3.5 becomes 7 halves, and 1.5 becomes 3 halves. Now that's 7 halves times p. So to get rid of the 7 halves, to get the variable by itself, you want to divide both sides by 7 halves. And when you divide by a fraction, you're really multiplying by the reciprocal. So multiply both sides by 2/7. On the left, 2/7 times 7 halves is 1. So the 2/7 and the 7 halves cancel out. 1 times p is just p. On the right, 2/7 times 3 halves is 3/7. Just remember, when it's a fraction times the variable, to get the fraction to the other side, multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Example 2. Solve negative 5n equals 60. Well, that's negative 5 times n, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so divide both sides by negative 5. On the left, negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1, and 1 times n is n, so the negative 5's cancel, leaving just n. On the right, 60 divided by negative 5 is negative 12. So just remember, if it's a number times the variable, divide both sides by that number, and it'll cancel, moving it to the other side, and the variable will be by itself. If it was the variable divided by a number, you would do the opposite and multiply both sides by that number. Always do the opposite operation to move a number to the other side of the equation. And remember to do that to both sides of the equation. Solve each equation. Number 1. H divided by 3 equals negative 2. Since it's h divided by 3, to move the 3, do the opposite and multiply both sides by 3. The 3's cancel on the left, leaving h, and 3 times negative 2 on the right is negative 6. Since it's h divided by the 3, do the opposite operation and multiply both sides by that 3 to get it to the other side. Number 2. 1/8 m equals 6. That's 1/8 times m, so do the opposite operation and divide both sides by 1/8. And dividing by 1/8 means multiply by the reciprocal, which is 8. Multiply both sides by 8. That will get the variable by itself. 8 times 1/8 is 1. 1 times m is m. And 8 times 6 is 48. Number 4. 5 equals y over 12. That's y divided by 12. To get the variable by itself, do the opposite and multiply both sides by 12. 12 times 5 is 60. And when you divide by 12 and multiply by 12, they cancel out, leaving the y. Always do the opposite operation, and that will cancel the number out. Number 5. Negative 1/4 k equals negative 2.5. Well, remember, if you have a fraction times the variable, multiply both sides by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 1/4 is negative 4, so multiply both sides by negative 4. Negative 4 and negative 1/4 cancel on the left, and negative 4 times negative 2.5 is 10. Number 7. Negative 1/2h equals 4. Well, first turn negative 1/2 to an improper fraction, which is negative 3/2. And then to get rid of the fraction, remember multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is negative 2/3. You can put the 4 over 1 if it'll help you multiply on the right. Negative 2/3 times negative 3/2 is 1. 1h is h. That's why it cancels out. And negative 2/3 times 4 is negative 8/3. Number 8. Negative 12 equals negative 3/2 k. Well, since I have a fraction times the variable, multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So multiply both sides by negative 2/3. And you can put the negative 12 over 1 if it'll help you multiply. You can reduce on the left. 3 and 12 are both divisible by 3. 3 becomes 1 and 12 becomes 4. When you multiply now, you get 8. And negative 2/3 times negative 3/2 is 1, leaving k. Remember, a fraction times its reciprocal is 1, and 1 times the variable is just the variable. That's why it cancels out the number. Number 10. Negative 3 1/3 b equals 5. First turn negative 3 1/3 into an improper fraction, which is negative 10/3. And since that's negative 10/3 times b, do the opposite and divide both sides by negative 10/3, which means multiply both sides by negative 3/10. You can put the 5 over 1 if it'll help. Negative 3/10 times negative 10/3 is 1, leaving 1b on the left. And on the right, the 10 and the 5 can reduce. They're both divisible by 5. 10 becomes 2, and 5 becomes 1. So b equals negative 3/2. Number 11. 7/10 m equals 10. Well, to get rid of the 7/10, multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 10/7. You can put the 10 over 1 if it'll help. 10/7 times 7/10 is 1. 1 times m is m. And 10/7 times 10 over 1 is 100 over 7. 3h equals negative 42. That's 3 times h. So do the opposite to move the 3 to the other side and get the variable by itself. The opposite of multiplying is divide. So divide both sides by 3. On the left, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1 times h is just h. That's why the 3's cancel. And negative 42 divided by 3 is negative 14. If it's the variable times the number, then divide both sides by that number to get the variable by itself. 14. 8m equals 16. That's 8 times m. Do the opposite and divide both sides by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times m is m. And on the right, 16 divided by 8 is 2. Number 16. Negative 3r equals negative 24. That's negative 3 times r. Do the opposite and divide both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, and 1 times r is r. The negative 3's cancel out, leaving the r by itself. And negative 24 divided by negative 3 is 8. (17) 8k equals negative 64. That's 8 times k. So do the opposite and divide both sides by 8. The 8's cancel on the left, leaving k, and negative 64 divided by 8 is negative 8. Number 19. 12h equals 4. That's 12 times h. So to move it, do the opposite and divide both sides by 12. The 12's cancel on the left, leaving h, and 4 divided by 12 is 1/3. Always reduce the fraction. 4/12 is 1/3. Number 20. Negative 2.4p equals 7.2. That's negative 2.4 times p. So do the opposite operation and divide both sides by negative 2.4. Negative 2.4 divided by negative 2.4 is 1, and 1 times p is p. On the right, 7.2 divided by negative 2.4 is negative 3. (22) Negative 25 equals 5m. That's 5 times m, so do the opposite and divide both sides by 5. Negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5, and on the right, 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 1 times m is m. Remember, doing the opposite operation will cancel the number out of the side that you're moving it from. Number 23. 6m equals 15. That's 6 times m. Do the opposite and divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 1 times m is m. 15/6 reduces. They're both divisible by 3. That reduces to 5/2. So when you're solving an equation, you want to get the variable by itself. To do that, move any number that's with the variable to the other side of the equation. And to do that, you have to do the opposite operation. If the number is added, subtract it. If the number is subtracted, you add it. And you do that to both sides of the equation. If the number is multiplied by the variable, then divide both sides by it. And if it's the variable divided by the number, multiply both sides by it. Doing the opposite operation cancels out the number and will leave the variable by itself.